Good morning, everybody. Me and Justin sure do hope that you've been enjoying the poets we've been presenting over the past couple of days. But as you know, you can only pick one of these fine gentlemen. And as we go on, in his poem, Leaves of Grass, he wrote, "The proof of a poet is that his country absorbs him as affectionately as he absorbed it. Therefore, I would like to present to you, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the beautiful Mr. Walt Whitman!"
Well, hello there, guys. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I mean, I really appreciate it.
Justin appreciates it too.
It is surely my pleasure. I mean, it's just mighty exhausting being widely recognized as one of the most known and gifted poets this country has ever produced.
Well, I bet so. But let's get right down to it. Tell me an interesting fact about yourself.
Well, at the age of 12, I began learning the printer's trade, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with the written word. I self-taught myself. I love reading, and I also became quickly acquainted with the many works of Dante, Homer, Shakespeare, and the Bible.
Wow, I didn't know that. How fantastic! In the year 1850, you withdrew from journalism and started doing, what?
I decided that journalism was getting a little bit too routine for me, so I wanted to change it up a little bit. So I devoted all of my life and time and energy to writing poetry. And let me tell you, my oh my, it was the most exact, perfect choice I could ever come up with. I mean, I absolutely love it. And this is from my poem, Song of Myself. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me, as God belongs to you. That was a stanza from Song of Myself. It is no doubt one of my absolute favorites.
Well, that is fantastic. Can you please tell us what exactly does all of your poetry convey?
Challenge me, why don't you? My poetry conveys my beliefs in equality, democracy, and a spiritual unity of all forms of life in the celebrated potential life of the human spirit itself.
That is very interesting. I have read a lot of your poems, and you know, I have come to the conclusion that your poetry is shaped by your unique ability to comprehend and absorb everything that you have observed.
Thank you so much, and that is correct. In the 383 poems, which included the final edition of Leaves of Grass, my poem, I captured the diversity of the American people. I did my best to convey the energy and intensity of all forms of life.
I see. What are two of the most important aspects of your writing style, Mr. Whitman?
That would have to be my frequent use of catalogs and parallelism. Those are some very important contributions to the way I write my poems. Catalogs are the piling up of images or concrete details. Parallelism is the repeated use of phrases, clauses, or sentences that are similar in structure or meaning.
Now, your catalogs, they were intended to represent the spiritual unity among, all forms of being. Am I correct?
Right you are. These components provide structure, create rhythm, and they also emphasize important ideas in my poetry.
Very cool. Wouldn't you say so, ladies and gentlemen? Now, where does the word free verse come into play?
A free verse is a verse that has irregular meter, and line length. Not to be conceited or anything, but I was the first poet to ever use free verse.
At least you know that you express yourself without constraint.
Yeah, but as hard as I have worked on my poems, my poetry did not gain the acceptance I had hoped for during my lifetime.
Oh, Mr. Whitman. It's okay, Justin. Well, you can't be so hard on yourself. I mean, you're one of the most gifted poets that this country has ever produced.
Well, aren't you a sweetheart? I mean, thanks for that little confidence booster, Carlos, and thank you again for having me on your show.
Oh, you are welcome. It is my pleasure. We're going to be taking a little intermission while me and Justin go have a little chat, if you know what I mean.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have one more poet show, Carlos, here today. After this, he'll be able to choose his poet.
Okay, let's get this thing started. Mr. Dunbar, what kind of poet would you consider yourself?
Well, people have told me they think I have a very formal and elegant style. Though some say I write in black dialect.
Okay. I know Justin over here loves elegant writing. What has made you the writer that you are today?
Excellent question. My mother is what inspired me to write. She was very supportive of my writing, and she influenced me and my brothers to write poetry.
Wow. That is very inspiring. Where would you publish your poetry?
In high school, I was the editor of the school newspaper. I would publish it in Dayton's community newspapers.
I have noticed that you write your works in sonnets. Now, what are sonnets, if you don't mind me asking?
Sonnets are 14-line lyric poems that are written in iambic pentameter.
What is iambic pentameter?
It is a particular rhythm that the words establish in the line.
Now, is it true that you had a tour of Europe while presenting your poetry?
Yes, it is. I was testing out my newest major work at the time, Lyrics of a Lowly Life. And shortly after returning to America, I received a clerkship of the Liberty of Congress in Washington, D.C. One of my favorite works in the Lyrics of a Lowly Life was We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hards our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to the human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with my red subtleties. I would like to convey the messages of contempt towards racism.
Wow, that was beautiful, ladies and gentlemen! And, what did I hear about you being, alcoholic?
Yes, after my wife left, I fell into a very deep slump. I suffer from tuberculosis.
Okay. Well, I'm taking you greatly into consideration.
It's been a fun couple days here for Carlos here. I'm sure he has a lot on his mind these past couple days trying to figure out who to choose. Now, Carlos, please select the first poet on that you've decided to say no to.
Wow. I didn't think it would come down to this. Did you, Justin? Me neither. Well, this decision has to be by far the hardest decision I will ever have to make. The first person that I'll have to send away... Holmes. Holmes, I really enjoyed some of the things you told me, but you're just not the poet that me and Justin are looking for. But thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Carlos, for giving me this chance. It was an honor to be considered your poet.
Deuces. Goodbye, Mr. Holmes. Continuing on, Carlos, who's the next poet you're sending home?
Well, the next poet I'll have to be sending home is Mr. Dubner. Mr. Dubner, your story was inspiring, but I have decided not to choose you as my poet. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. It was an honor working with you.
Deuces. Now it all comes down to this. Who have you chosen to be your poet?
Well, we have chosen Mr. Walt Whitman! Thank you for everything, Mr. Longfellow, but I decided to choose Whitman. It was a very, very, very hard decision.
Thank you so much, Carlos. It was a pleasure being here with you. You have chosen a great man, though I do wish it was me.
Wow! I was not expecting this at all. Mr. Longfellow, you are amazing. I mean, I'm so honored that you chose me, Carlos. You have no idea. I promise you that you will not regret your decision. Thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, folks. Carlos has chosen his poet. I will see you next time on Say Yes to the Poet. Thank you all for watching. Good night, everyone.
Am I talking?
Your poetry is somewhat shaped by your unique...
Carlos here today.
You're